In this section of 1-4, we're going to be talking about distribution at a higher level. So notice here, we have 3 times everything inside this parentheses. And of course, remember, the word to distribute means actually to multiply through each term inside this parentheses. So what is 3 times 8y squared? Well, recall we just multiply the coefficients, and so of course 3 times 8 will be 24y squared, and this remains unchanged. Now how about 3 times negative 10y? Well, we know that a positive times a negative is a negative, and 3 times 10 is of course 30y. And lastly, of course, we have 3 times positive 2, which would give us positive 6. And this is fairly straightforward. I would encourage you to pause this, finish taking any notes that you need. Let's move on to a more difficult example. Here we go with example 2. Now, I promised you a more difficult example, so let's do something like this. What if I said 1/4 times, let's say 9z to the 8th power minus 12z to the 5th power plus, how about 2y? Okay, let's take a look. The first thing I note is that I have a fraction multiplied by whole numbers, so of course we can turn each whole number into a fraction by putting it over the number 1. Now from there, remember our rule from fractions is top times top over bottom times bottom. So you multiply the top with the top, the bottom with the bottom, and right here, for example, 1 times 9 will give us 9 over 4 times 1, which would be 4z to the 8th power. Now how about right here? We have 1 times negative 12 is negative 12 over 4 times 1, which is 4z to the 5th. And lastly, we have 1 times 2, which would be 2 over 4 times 1, which is 4 to the y. Now from here you might think that you're done, but remember with fractions, we always have to reduce. So I know that 9 over 4 cannot reduce, so that's 9 over 4z to the 8th, but right here, it's not even about reducing. Ask yourself, what is 12 divided by 4? And it's 3. So we have a negative divided by a positive, which is a negative, in this case 3z to the 5th. And here we have 2 over 4. Well, we know that both 2 and 4 can be divided by 2. So 2 divided by 2 is 1, 4 divided by 2 is 2y. And there we go. There's our distribution. Let's go ahead and do one more final example, and I'll make this a little bit trickier. Okay, here is our example 3. And as promised, let's make this a little bit crazy. Let's say 2/5 times 4a to the 12th power minus 3 over 2, let's say f to the 5th power plus 13 over 4. Okay. And once we distribute this, let's see what we get. Now notice this 4 must become a fraction, 4 over 1. And when I do top times top, I have 2 times 4, which would be 8 over 5 times 1, 5a to the 12th. Here we have a positive times a negative, so that would be a negative. And of course, 2 times 3 is 6 over 5 times 2 is 10f to the 5th plus, and I would actually encourage you to pause the video right now and figure out what is 2/5 times 13/4 all on your own without my help. Pause it, try and answer it. Okay, and here we see that 2 times 13 is 26 over 5 times 4, which is 20. And there's our constant. Notice one fact though, we can actually reduce this. Both 26 and 20 can be divided by 2. And once we do that, we'll have our final answer. 8 over 5, a to the 12th, minus, and wait a second, can 6 over 10 reduce? Yeah, of course, those can both be divided by 2. And so 6 divided by 2 would be, of course, 3 over 10 divided by 2 is 5f to the 5th plus 26 divided by 2 is 13 over 10. Alright? I hope this helps, and I'll see y'all in our next section.